Hello, this is Bill Hahn. Welcome to this short overview of business process management in action. For more extensive collection of BPM demos, you can go to IBM BPMDemos.com. So let's get started. Here's a visual representation of a typical business process without business process management. You can see in the top layer that we have people collaborating in an ad hoc fashion, sending emails around with file attachments and spreadsheets. And on the bottom half of the diagram, you can see different systems that they access in a very ad hoc fashion. In a typical business process, many of the tasks are informal. It can be very inefficient. There's inconsistent prioritization. It's hard to really know where the process is exactly because there's poor visibility into the process activities and the performance. With business process management, we introduce a layer to better orchestrate the human-to-human and human-to-system interactions. What this allows us to do is to more automatically prioritize and route work throughout the process to help guide users through participating in the process. Leveraging existing systems and data makes it easier for us to monitor exactly what's going on throughout the process, so we have better visibility into where things are and how long it's taking to get the work done. We can dramatically reduce errors and improve accuracy and the overall performance of the process. Plus, all that tribal knowledge that's in people's heads that we're dependent upon them to apply consistently throughout the process can be captured, represented, and applied more consistently throughout the process as business rules. This results in a number of benefits, a few of which are collected in the bottom right. So with business process management, we bring some essential capabilities to the table. We have tools that allow you to visually model business processes so you can better analyze and identify the hot spots throughout the process. We orchestrate the process through a workflow of paths, including rules, to guide the process throughout execution. We can document and capture the business data and structures and flow that data throughout the process in a meaningful way. We can create user interfaces and change them quickly, managing documents and events throughout the process, and tying into existing IT systems. And the metrics and analytics, the key performance indicators, the thresholds, the reports that business needs in order to better manage the process are a core part of what business process management does. So with business process management, we ideally have a roles-based approach that goes throughout a full life cycle of modeling, designing, and implementing the business process, using that process as an end-user community of individual participants, managers, and executives, and a way to analyze and optimize the process in a continuous process improvement fashion. Ideally with a single view of the business process throughout that full life cycle. So our first stop on this tour of business process management in action is going to be Blueworks Live, a cloud-based way for us to do business-friendly business process modeling. In this discovery map, we can have a dialogue with a group of process stakeholders, business and IT stakeholders, about what makes up the process. In this example, we're dealing with an order fulfillment scenario. So we can have a discussion about what people know about the process and capture that as a collection of activities to build a consensus about what makes up this process. We have to place an order, which involves either creating the order manually or having a back-end system trigger the order. I'll go ahead and use the snapshot versioning of this online Blueworks Live environment to bring up the completed version of this discovery map that we could easily color for clarity. Regardless, in a matter of minutes, we can have a dialogue about what makes up the process, and then in this clean discovery map that isn't bogged down with connections and arrows and decision gateways, we can have a high-level discussion about what are the primary activities in the business process. And then we can capture more details about those activities, like for instance, who the primary participant is, what's the role that is being played when this activity is being performed, this create order manually, who are the business owners that care that this activity gets done properly, What experts do we turn to when we're completing this activity? Are there systems involved? Do we know anything about the time or the cost that it takes to complete this activity? What about the high-level inputs and outputs at the beginning and the end of this activity? And do we know anything about the risk or the value add? Is this a non-value add, a value add, or simply a required activity? And the team knows the challenges and problems that we have with this process, so we can capture them in a single place. We have a problems page where we can capture the challenges, like analysts need to sift through too many planning documents to get this done, and what's the severity, high, medium, low, and frequency of that problem or issue. We can capture rich text documentation with links to any additional documentation, as well as attachments. Certainly many people on the team have existing documents, and we can attach and collect all that knowledge, those documents, in a single place. And then amongst the team and across the extended stakeholders, we can comment and have a discussion about, do we have it right? Have we missed anything? And so we can comment in a single place. Now, when we're working as a team, we have an opportunity for a variety of styles of collaboration. In this example, we have Ray on the bottom half. He's looking at some templates, perhaps considering jump-starting some of his process modeling using some templates. In the top half of the screen, perhaps in another cubicle in another building, maybe another country, we have Bill on the top half, and he sees with the people awareness that Ray's online, and he can chat with Ray saying, hello, why don't you join me on this process since you're online? And he can send him a link to the process. So it's very easy for teammates to join one another on their common goal, which is working on this process. Now, when Ray does some work in this process, maybe adding an activity, you can see in the top half that Bill sees the changes that Ray's making online in a near real-time fashion. When Bill makes a change, as soon as he makes a change or moves that activity around the diagram, Ray sees that change move almost immediately. So we have this online collaborative environment that makes it very easy and frictionless to collaborate as a team. Two or more participants, many participants, can be working on this in a near real-time collaborative fashion. So now let's spend a little bit more time analyzing this process. Let's leverage that collective knowledge of the team. We've gathered all that tribal knowledge into the documentation of this process, and in the analysis view, we can overlay that information visually on top of the process map. So we can look at the participants and the business owners, the experts, the systems that we have documented in the system, which systems are supporting the activities throughout this process. We can look at cycle time. As an example, the minutes, hours, or days that each one of these activities or milestone collection of activities takes. And we can project that or layer that on top of the process diagram that we'll be spending a little bit more time in a few minutes, as well as the discovery map, because the discovery map and process diagram views are simply different views of the same information. If we overlay cost on here, we can look at that at lower levels of detail, like the sub-process level of detail or the high level. And those sub-processes were created automatically from the discovery map. We can look at the inputs and outputs. The risk, we can see that this collection of activities is low risk. We can also see that that collection of activities is non-value add, so maybe this collection of activities is a good candidate for cost containment, as an example. The problems overlay is particularly telling because now we have kind of a heat map, if you will, a quick view of where the problems and challenges lie in the process. So we can really get a collective understanding of what the challenges are with the process. And as the team attaches more information to the process model, we can get quick access to all those documents that they've attached to the process. Now let's spend a little bit more time working with the process diagram view. We spent some time working with the discovery map, which is a great way to keep a high-level view, to stay out of the weeds and have a consensus discussion about which activities make up the process and documenting the details of those activities. We can also look at the same set of activities through the process diagram lens, if you will, and for each participant name that we gave, a swim lane was automatically created. Analyst, manager, ERP system, vendor. And so in here we can also drag and drop elements around. If I drag and drop this select vendors activity into the analyst swim lane, that'll automatically set the participant name to analyst. We can also, by clicking on the plus sign on the link between these activities, get a BPM End palette to build out more detail about the process. You can see that in this BPM End palette we have a variety of shapes, and we can build out the process diagram. You see that lower levels of detail on the discovery map are automatically constructed as sub-processes, and we can do the same thing here in the process diagram view. By using the BPM End palette, we can simply drag and drop elements around and do additional process modeling. So it's very easy to do visual process modeling in a business-friendly way, simply from a web browser in a cloud-based environment. We can also share this process information in business document format. So for instance, by clicking on this PowerPoint icon, I can create a PowerPoint presentation that contains all the information that we've entered in the model. So we can generate business-friendly documents to facilitate having meetings and discussions about the process, not only using the online environment but also using these document formats. We can create PDF, multi-page or single-page PDF documents that capture all the information we put into the process to make it easy to share this with a variety of stakeholders. We can also, drilling down into this process space, looking at the detailed menu for this process, we can export to Word. The Word format is particularly useful for both people that have worked with the process online on Blueworks Live as well as people that haven't, because it's an easy to understand format. You can see all of the details about the participant roles, the stakeholders, the systems, time and cost, as well as the problems that we documented and the attachments. Even the comments are embedded in this summary Word document, so that we truly have a summary document that captures all the details that we put into the process model, making it very easy to share with the extended business community and build that consensus about what kind of process improvement initiative we want to pursue with this process. We can also export into a handful of additional formats like BPM End2.0, business process modeling notation, so we can take our work anywhere. As well as business-friendly formats like Excel that take all the details and put it in a very easy to slice and dice format. All the activities, the roles, the inputs and outputs, the systems, the cycle times, cost, risk, value add, even the attachments are summarized here and linked in hot links, so you can get to everything very quickly. So an analyst could come into here and, using normal spreadsheet jacking techniques, do something like look at all of the value added and non-value added activities. In this case, just show me the value added activities, or perhaps just show me the non-value added activities. So it makes it very easy to slice and dice the data in a simple spreadsheet format, so I can really leverage all that information in a flexible fashion. Let's go ahead and do some final adjustments to our process model, to our discovery map, and then take it into execution. If we want to take a process model from this documentation state where we can analyze it and build consensus into execution, in other words, turn it into a process application, we can pull it into a modeling for execution tool like Process Designer, and from within here we can log on to our Blueworks Live account and pull that process model straight into our modeling for execution environment, Process Designer. You can see it brought in all of the processes. If we open up the main process, order fulfillment, you can see it brought that in. Now we can begin doing more detailed modeling for execution on this process, which is what we'll spend a little bit more time doing. So as I drill down into these sub-processes, you can see that everything came over from the online Blueworks Live environment, and now in Process Designer we can do more process modeling. So at this point we're going to spend some time as a BPM designer and developer in Process Designer. So let's first take a look at how this process runs. No matter how much or how little you've implemented about a process, it's always runnable. So if I use this Run Process playback button in the upper right hand corner, I can run the process. We'll first run a more completed version of the process, and then we'll show you how we built it out. So you can see that when we press the Run button, no matter how much or how little has been built out, we can run the process, When we claim an activity that happens to be a human activity, it shows us the user interface for that activity, and it looks something like this. So now let's take a look at how that was built. You can see that the process model certainly came over from Blueworks Live, and the swim lanes. What we also do is we can define more details about the data, either by pointing and clicking it back in systems and harvesting that information and having it generated for us, or just by entering it in as a part of a live design session. So now we have process flow and data. What about the activity implementations? Let's see how we built out a human activity. So we can simply use an activity wizard to generate get a jump start on implementing this activity. And in this first screen, you can see that what it created for us is it created a user interface with the high-level data elements provided for us. So now we can have a business discussion with the business stakeholders about what the screen should look like, and for instance just drag and drop the UI elements, which are actually the business data elements flowing through the process, and press that run button at any level of the process. Here we happen to be doing it on an individual activity. And then we can iteratively go through and change the UI, and at any time we can play it back again to see if we're getting closer to what the business wants. In this case, moving that planner comments field down to the lower part of the screen, because that's something we use to comment and collaborate throughout this order fulfillment process. Now let's take this activity that we've begun implementing and make it a part of the process. Let's wire it into this process and see how it runs. So you can see it's always runnable at any time. When I press the playback button, it runs the process. We don't have to wait for any code to be generated or any sort of deployment step. It just runs. You can see that our activity is running. We'll type in a comment here, hello from manager, because this activity is in the manager swim lane. So I'll go ahead and say hello from manager. And then when I refresh the process and see that it proceeds to the second step and claim that activity, we can see that sure enough those comments are carried through in the payload of the process from the first activity to the second activity. So we can see that in this first activity, this manager activity that we just built out, there's one screen. We can actually have quite a bit more detail. If we take a look at, for instance, this create order activity in the process that's been built out, we can have multiple yellow boxes, multiple screens, as well as multiple services that are called before and after screens. These reusable services, like get product information or get available vendors before we get to this third screen, are indeed reusable, and they can be used at both the activity level as well as throughout the process. So if we go ahead and look for that implementation component and just start typing, we can narrow down the list to get to that get vendor service, and you can see that that's usable anywhere throughout the process. This reusable service can be used inside of activities or sub-processes as well as at the process level. So in the left here you see the process library, and this process library, unlike most tree structures in a development tool, doesn't have a bunch of hierarchical sections to it with thousands of files. It has easy to navigate categories that make it very quick and easy to find the elements of a process. So the processes, sub-processes, user interfaces, integration implementation components, decision rules, data, performance metrics, and so we have an easy to navigate process library, much like iTunes has categories for music, movies, and TV shows. We have a process library that's very easy to navigate. One of the sections in the process library is Toolkits, and that's our section for reusable components. And as an example here, we have Enterprise SOA Services Toolkit. These toolkits are simply collections of reusable components, and they can be named anything you like. Think of this as, this is literally the place where you can surface any IT component. Anything in the IT landscape can be surfaced in these toolkits and then dragged and dropped into your process application. So for instance, if I drag and drop this backend integration in the process application and perhaps another one like this business rule, then I can wire it into the process. We'll create a gateway here, a decision gateway, additional fulfillment rules, and then we can simply wire it into the process. So it's as simple as dragging and dropping your existing IT components and wiring them into the process. This particular backend component, this backend integration, we drill down into it by double-clicking, we can see that that we connect to a backend system, interact with a database, a warehouse, make a web service call, and then update things in that backend system. So there are lower levels of detail, and it's version. So this comes from another group. When that other group changes this reusable component, we can use whatever version we like. So it's very easy to select whichever version we like. We get notified with this triangle notification. We're not forced to accept the changes, but if we so choose to, we can accept the newest version, and you can see it changes before our eyes whenever we tap into a new version. So we have version governance throughout the life cycle. So now what we're going to do is use this process as an end user community using the process portal as an individual participant and manager and executives. So let's go ahead and switch over to the process portal. And as you can see, out of the box we have a color-coded inbox that shows us our on-track, at-risk, and overdue activities when we're working on activities and items in this process. So what we can do is we can choose any one of those activities, and we drill down into it. We see an actual picture of the process. That same picture of the process that we were using in the process designer we see as an end user optionally. So we have clarity on where we are in the process. In this case, a manager. In the manager approval step, we can see where we are, what happened before us and after us. When we claim an activity and use it, we can see the user interface that we built with a little bit more mouse aerobics. You can see we're able to build live reports into the user interfaces, so we can make the user interfaces as simple or complex as we like. In addition, we can manage our team, so we can see the on-track, at-risk, and overdue pieces of the pie. If we click on the at-risk piece of the pie, we can see all the activities that our team is working on that are at risk of going overdue. They're close to going overdue. We can see when in the future activities will be going overdue, and then we can also see the workload distribution across our team, which might lead to making some smart decisions about which one of these at-risk activities we might want to change the priority on or reassign to different members of the team. Again, all these views being out of the box and working with any process that we build out. So now if we go into the process level view, we can see all of the work trending over days or weeks, and we can see the highest volume and velocity activities like get vendor responses, manager approval, and we can click on any one of those parts of the bar and drill down into that set of activities. We can also build process-specific reports or ad hoc reports with a little bit of mouse aerobics. Just through drag and drop, we can build reports that are specific to the process. And in this case, we can see manager approval is taking a long amount of time. So let's take a look at the business analyst portion of the equation and how we can spot process optimization opportunities. So if we take a look at the process and overlay it with information about how this process is used, either simulated data or real data, we can tap into instantly the real data of how the process was used, since it's automatically collected for us, and see a heat map of wait time. So the activities with darker red highlights around them show us the activities that have significant wait time. So in this case, manager approval is taking on average 13 hours and 25 minutes. The analyst's activity select fulfillment option is taking on average 5 hours and 38 minutes. So a significant amount of wait time. We can also take a look at other heat maps. Just give you one other example. The path analysis view shows us the percentage of activities that flow through this part of the path. So we can see all of the manager approval activities that came out of the manager approval step or activity, 48%, which consisted of approvals and rejections. 30% were approved. You can see it on the right side of that approved gateway. And 25% were rejected, and there's all the data. So we can easily click on this Excel export icon and share that data with the extended team to do further business analysis on. There's a lot of options to slice and dice this data. For instance, if we change from average value to percent of instances outside range, we can capture in a simple property sheet the time the business expects this activity to take, and then the system will automatically calculate for us the percentage of time it's taking too long. So this percent of instances outside range of violations, 69% of the time this activity is taking longer than the business expects. manager approval is taking longer than the business expects 54% of the time. So this is just scratching the surface on the kind of analysis that we can do with a business process management platform. Suffice it to say, we can slice and dice the data and analyze it to our heart's content. If you'd like to see more demonstrations that cut across wider and deeper, you can go to IBMBPMDemos.com, IBMBPMDemos.com, and on this website you can access a varietal modular collection of tutorial demos that show these examples in more detail and others as well. They're available in streaming YouTube format as well as offline downloadable format, and actually hands-on instructions as well. So you can play these videos online or download them. We have scenarios for BPM as well as Blueworks Live for modeling for documentation and modeling for execution. And we also have an online trial environment if you want to take BPM for test drive. So thank you for watching. This is Bill Hahn, and have a great day.